Ambassador Dominic Rhodes walked through the crystalline halls of the Hegemony Council chamber, his footsteps echoing against the translucent floor. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on his shoulders with each step. Around him, representatives of 1,000 alien species watched with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. To them, humans were barely more than clever pets who had stumbled onto the galactic stage. If only they knew. The chamber's vast dome stretched overhead, its surface displaying a real-time map of the Hegemony's territory, nearly 60% of the known galaxy. At the chamber's heart stood the triumvirate throne, where the three most powerful beings in known space sat in judgment. Supreme Arbiter Vostok, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate crystalline vessel, War Master Krell, whose metallic exoskeleton housed what remained of his organic form, and Commerce Director Zinra, whose serpentine body coiled around her elevated perch. Ambassador Rhodes, Vostok's voice resonated through the chamber, a symphony of harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. You requested this emergency session of the Grand Council. Speak your piece, but remember your station. Dominic allowed himself a small smile. Supreme Arbiter, honored members of the Triumvirate, assembled representatives of the Hegemony. I come before you not as a supplicant, but as a herald. A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber. War Master Krell's exoskeleton wavered as he leaned forward. Mind your tone, human. Your species has been part of galactic society for barely 3 decades. Precisely, Dominic replied, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. And in those 3 decades, we have watched. We have learned. We have seen how the Hegemony treats those it considers inferior. Commerce Director Zinra's scales shifted color in mourning. If this is about the mining rights on your colony worlds, this is about far more than mining rights, Dominic interrupted. This is about the systematic exploitation of developing species, the strip mining of garden worlds, the genetic engineering of entire populations into servitor races, the deliberate suppression of technological advancement among your protectorate worlds. You dare. Krell began, but Dominic pressed on. Yes, I dare, because humanity has reached a decision. We will no longer stand idle while you reshape the galaxy in your image. As of this moment, we demand the immediate cessation of all exploitative practices, the restoration of sovereignty to all protectorate worlds, and the disbanding of the Hegemony's forced labor programs. Laughter erupted throughout the chamber, harsh, clicking, humming sounds from 1,000 alien throats. Supreme Arbiter Vostok's crystalline form pulsed with apparent amusement. And if we refuse these demands? Dominic's expression hardened. Then, in exactly 1 standard galactic cycle, humanity will remove the Hegemony permanently. The laughter died. War Master Krell rose from his throne, his exoskeleton towering over the chamber floor. You threaten us with war. Your entire fleet consists of fewer than 50 ships. The Hegemony commands millions. Do we? Dominic asked softly. Are you certain you know the true extent of humanity's capabilities, of our reach, of our resolve? He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small holographic projector. With a tap, it displayed a series of coordinates throughout Hegemony space. Even now, human agents are in place throughout your empire. We have spent 30 years preparing for this moment. This is not a threat, War Master. This is a courtesy notice. Commerce Director Zinra's scales had shifted to a pale white, a sign of genuine concern among her species. Impossible. Our security networks are compromised, Dominic finished. Your encryption was broken 28 years ago. Your surveillance systems have been feeding you carefully curated data for over a decade. You see what we want you to see. Supreme Arbiter Vostok's crystalline form darkened. Even if what you say is true, you would risk the complete annihilation of your species. We would risk everything to prevent the future you envision, Dominic replied. 1 cycle, honored triumvirate, reform, or face extinction. He turned and began walking toward the chamber's exit. Behind him, the council erupted into chaos as representatives argued, threatened, and panicked. Just before reaching the doors, he paused and looked back. "Oh, and one more thing. Don't bother sending assassins. The ones already on Earth have been our agents for years." As the doors sealed behind him, Dominic allowed his diplomatic mask to slip for just a moment. His hands were shaking as he activated his quantum communicator. Message to command. Ultimatum delivered. Begin Operation Daybreak. Throughout the galaxy, hidden transmitters activated. Sleeper agents received their signals. And in the vast darkness between the stars, things that the hegemony had never detected began to move. The clock was ticking. Hidden strength. Deep within the Kuiper Belt, Admiral Rashid Hassan stood aboard humanity's true flagship, the HS Prometheus. The massive vessel, nearly 3 kilometers long, had never appeared in any official record. Like the other 200 ships of humanity's Shadow Fleet, it had been built in absolute secrecy. Status report. He commanded, watching as holographic displays showed thousands of similar vessels emerging from hidden shipyards throughout human space. "All stealth systems nominal," reported Lieutenant Winter Blackwood, her fingers dancing across the neural interface. "Shadow Fleet reporting ready. Quantum disruptors at full capacity." Hassan nodded, his weathered face reflecting the blue glow of the tactical displays. "And our allies?" "The Nexus is alive with activity," Winter replied. "The Artaxians have confirmed their support. The Scathar resistance is mobilizing. Even the Crystalline Collective has broken their neutrality protocols. For 30 years, humanity had worked in secret, building alliances with other species oppressed by the hegemony. While their official representatives played the part of naive newcomers, human intelligence operatives had been laying the groundwork for this moment. "Signal from Earth Command," Winter announced. Ambassador Rhodes's mission was successful. The triumvirate reacted exactly as predicted. Hassan allowed himself a grim smile. Of course they did. Tyrants always do. He straightened his uniform. "Send the activation codes. All cells are go." Across hegemony space, carefully placed agents received their signals. On the hegemony throne world of Apex Prime, maintenance workers suddenly abandoned their posts, revealing themselves as highly trained saboteurs. In the shipyards of Krell's Pride, engineers activated dormant viruses in the hegemony's command networks. Admiral Hassan opened a channel to the entire Shadow Fleet. "Brothers and sisters of humanity, the time has come. For 3 decades, we have hidden our strength, played the part of humble newcomers while preparing for this day. The hegemony believes they know humanity's capabilities. Today, we show them how wrong they are." The Shadow Fleet began to move, emerging from dimensional pockets and gravitational shadows where they had waited. Ships that made humanity's official vessels look like toys by comparison, armed with weapons that the hegemony had never dreamed possible. "All ships, execute Operation Daybreak. Freedom for all sentient beings. First strike." War Master Krell stomped through the corridors of the Apex Prime Defense Center, his exoskeleton leaving dents in the metallic floor. "How did we not see this coming?" he raged. Emergency alerts flashed across every screen. Somehow, the humans had compromised everything. Defense networks, communication systems, even the quantum-entangled command relays that were supposed to be unhackable. "Sir," a junior officer called out, their tentacles writhing in distress. "We're detecting massive energy signatures everywhere. Ships are appearing out of nowhere." Before Krell could respond, the entire facility shuddered. Throughout the hegemony's territory, humanity's Shadow Fleet struck with devastating precision. Ships equipped with quantum phase technology simply ignored defensive shields, their weapons striking directly at critical infrastructure. Aboard the HS Prometheus, Admiral Hassan watched as decades of planning unfolded. Status of Operation Daybreak. Winter's fingers flew across her console. Primary targets neutralized. Hegemony fleet coordination is completely disrupted. Resistance forces are rising up on 37 major worlds. The Artaxians have already liberated their homeworld. On the main viewer, Hassan watched as a hegemony dreadnought tried to engage one of the Shadow Fleet's vessels. The human ship's quantum disruptors activated, and the massive alien vessel simply stopped. Its engines died, its weapons went dark, and its shields collapsed. "Sir," Winter called out, her voice tense. "The Triumvirate is deploying their reserve fleet, 5,000 vessels, moving to surround Earth." Hassan nodded. "As expected. Signal the Crystalline Collective. Execute Phase 2. Throughout the approaching hegemony fleet, crystalline structures that had been disguised as ordinary hull plating suddenly activated. The entire fleet froze in space as their own ships betrayed them, transformed from within by years of patient infiltration. "Message from Supreme Arbiter Vostok," Winter announced. "They're requesting to discuss terms." Hassan's expression hardened. "Tell them it's too late for terms. The hegemony's time is over. Humanity isn't here to take their place. We're here to ensure no species ever dominates another again." He opened a channel to all human forces. "This is Admiral Hassan. Phase 1 is complete. Begin liberation protocols. Remember, we protect the innocent. Any hegemony forces that surrender are to be treated according to the Galactic Rights Convention." As the Shadow Fleet moved to secure key systems, Hassan looked out at the stars. Humanity had hidden its strength for 30 years, playing the long game. Now finally, they could step into the light, not as conquerors, but as liberators. The real war was just beginning. Rising Storm. The battle for Nexus Prime would be remembered as the turning point. The massive space station, heart of the hegemony's faster-than-light communication network, erupted in chaos as human stealth teams disabled its defenses from within. Captain Ryoko Tanaka piloted her stealth fighter through the station's defensive grid, watching as supposedly impenetrable shields winked out section by section. Infiltration Team Alpha, report status. Internal defenses neutralized. Came the response from Dr. Marcus Ibrahim, her team's tech specialist. 30 years of backdoors finally paying off. You've got clear access to the central core. The hegemony had never suspected that their basic computer architecture, sold to humanity as beginner-level technology, had been systematically rebuilt and improved upon by human engineers. Every system they'd given humanity had been studied, enhanced, and turned into a weapon. War Master Krell's voice boomed across all frequencies. "Humans, you cannot comprehend the forces you're unleashing. The hegemony maintains order. Without us, the galaxy will descend into chaos." Ryoko smiled grimly as she landed her fighter in the station's main hangar. "Better chaos than tyranny," she muttered, checking her quantum phase armor. The suit, like everything humanity had developed, was decades beyond what the hegemony thought possible. Inside the station, Dr. Ibrahim's team had reached the quantum core. "Captain, we're ready. But there's something you should see." Ryoko joined them in the vast chamber housing the Nexus core. Her eyes widened as she saw the true nature of the hegemony's communication system. Billions of crystalline matrices, each containing the compressed consciousness of a sentient being. "They're using enslaved minds to power their network," Marcus explained, his voice tight with anger. "Every faster-than-light communication in hegemony space is carried by a imprisoned consciousness." Ryoko's hand tightened on her weapon. "Get them out. All of them. Signal the fleet. The hegemony just lost their last chance at mercy." Dawn of Change. Admiral Hassan stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as the final battle unfolded. The liberation of the Nexus slaves had turned even the hegemony's most loyal servant races against them. Now their once mighty empire was crumbling. "Sir," Winter called out, "we're detecting a massive energy buildup in the Apex system. The Triumvirate. They're activating something big." Hassan's eyes narrowed. "Show me." The tactical display revealed a terrible truth: the hegemony's final weapon. A massive station, hidden in Apex Prime's sun, designed to trigger a cascade of supernovas across human space. They would destroy half the galaxy just to maintain control, Hassan breathed. Signal all forces. This ends now. The Shadow Fleet converged on Apex Prime, but the hegemony's weapon was already powering up. That's when humanity revealed its final secret. Activate the Harmony Protocol, Hassan commanded. Throughout human space, massive structures that had been disguised as orbital habitats came to life. They weren't habitats at all, but nodes of a vast quantum network, humanity's answer to the hegemony's enslaved consciousness system. Harmony nodes online, Winter reported. Quantum field stabilizing. Sir, it's working. The Harmony network reached out across space, its free-given human consciousness interfacing with and overwhelming the hegemony's slave-powered systems. In the Apex system, their super weapons suddenly went dark, as its control systems were subverted. Supreme Arbiter Vostok's voice crackled across space. What are you doing? Creating balance, Hassan replied. Your empire was built on enslaved minds and stolen power. Ours is built on voluntary sacrifice and shared strength. That's the difference between us. We understand that true power comes from cooperation, not domination. The Harmony Network spread across hegemony space, freeing enslaved minds and stabilizing systems that would have collapsed in the Empire's fall. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing not just for war, but for peace. One by one, the hegemony's worlds declared independence. The triumvirate, their power broken, surrendered to the combined forces of the liberated species. A new era of galactic civilization was about to begin. Aboard the Prometheus, Hassan looked out at the stars. Send word to Earth. Operation Daybreak is complete. The galaxy is free. Winter's console beeped. Sir, we're receiving thousands of messages from liberated worlds. They're asking for humanity's help in building a new galactic community. Hassan smiled. Tell them yes. After all, that was the plan all along. We didn't hide our strength for 30 years just to become the new tyrants. We did it to create something better. A galaxy where all species work together as equals. As the Shadow Fleet began its peacekeeping duties, Hassan thought about the long road ahead. The easy part, winning the war, was over. Now came the real challenge, building a lasting peace. But humanity was ready. They had spent 30 years preparing not just weapons and strategies, but plans for schools, hospitals, trade networks, and diplomatic frameworks. They had hidden their strength not to dominate, but to liberate, not to rule, but to serve. The final ultimatum had led not to humanity's dominion over the galaxy, but to something far more precious, a chance for all species to forge a new future together. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if they too were celebrating the dawn of a new age.